The most important update Overwatch has received in years didn't come from Blizzard. It didn't arrive in a developer blog, a roadmap, or a cinematic reveal. It didn't appear as a bold bullet point on a seasonal feature list. It arrived quietly from another studio wearing the Marvel logo attached to a game that technically had nothing to do with Overwatch at all. But the moment Marvel Rivals began dominating timelines, pulling stream numbers and generating genuine curiosity and love from fans, something began to shift in the background. Blizzard started moving and thinking differently. Communication changed, patching accelerated, risk tolerance widened. Long-standing design conversation suddenly felt closer to action than theory. To fans, this may feel like Blizzard finally listening. From the outside, it looks like something far older and far more reliable, a company responding to very genuine competition. I don't play Overwatch, I don't grind its ladders, track its metas, or build my identity around its heroes, but I do follow gaming news closely. I follow launches and the quiet behavioral patterns of studios when their positions tend to become unstable. And across decades of games, one truth keeps repeating. Nothing motivates change like the sudden presence of a credible alternative. Passion can inspire improvement. Feedback can suggest improvement. But only competition reliably forces improvement. Marvel Rivals does not need to replace Overwatch to matter, it only needs to exist loudly enough to remind Blizzard that Overwatch is not inevitable. This perspective is important because it removes fandom from the equation. This isn't about which game is better, it isn't about which roster is stronger. This isn't about which roster is stronger or which abilities feel more satisfying to use. It's about how ecosystems behave when pressure enters them. When a dominant live service game faces a viable rival, its development philosophy begins to shift. Safe pacing gives way to urgency. Long-term plans gets pushed to the front. Experimental ideas escape backlog purgatory. The game begins acting less like a monument and more like a product that still needs to be chosen. This video is a bit of a side path for the channel. I don't usually make industry-focused essays like this, but every so often a topic lines up in a way that feels worth stepping outside my usual lane. Most of what I make revolves around movies, films, TV shows, musicians, albums, etc., as well as the stories, the way they age, evolve, or get misunderstood over time. So if you enjoy this style of long-form analysis, and you're interested in that broader kind of pop culture focused deep dive, including the next video which looks at Thor 2011, consider subscribing. It really does help out more than you'd expect. But for now, let's talk about why Marvel Rivals may have become the single best thing to happen to Overwatch in years. For a long time, Overwatch existed in a strangely protected space. It wasn't perfect, but it was uncontested in its specific niche in a way that insulated it from true existential threat. Hero shooters existed, sure, but none combined Overwatch's readability, character-driven design, production value, esports legacy, and mainstream cultural recognition into such a single coherent package. When the game occupies that kind of space, improvement slowly shifts from necessity to preference, not intentionally, not maliciously, structurally. Systems begin evolving at the speed of comfort rather than the speed of danger. When there is no direct rival capable of siphoning your audience at scale, mistakes become survivable instead of catastrophic. Slow updates become tolerable instead of unacceptable. Controversial design decisions become debate topics rather than emergencies. Player dissatisfaction becomes noise rather than fire. Overwatch spent years in this state. Content cadence fluctuated. Systems were introduced, revised, reverted, and reintroduced. Promises were made, walked back, reframed, or quietly dissolved into new language. The game never truly collapsed, but it slowly lost urgency, and losing urgency is often far more damaging than losing popularity. From the outside, it looked like less a game that was fighting to evolve and more like a game maintaining a plateau. Blizzard still had talent. They still had buckets of money, they still had institutional knowledge, they still had a massive player base. What they lacked was pressure. Pressure changes behavior in ways that passion alone never reliably manages to. Without pressure, updates can afford to be conservative. Without pressure, communication can afford to be vague. Without pressure, player goodwill becomes something to draw from rather than something to consistently earn. A dangerous psychological shift occurs when success feels permanent. The The company does not consciously think players have nowhere else to go. Instead, it subconsciously behaves as if that is actually true. Roadmaps become safer, experiments become rarer, risk becomes something to avoid rather than embrace. Overwatch for a long time behaved like a game that believed its position in the ecosystem was fundamentally secure forever. That security changes the internal framing of problems. When a hero is frustrating, it becomes a long-term tuning task. When the system underperforms, it becomes a future overhaul. When a mode stagnates, it becomes a seasonal concern. Everything becomes a schedule. Everything becomes a scheduling issue instead of a survival issue. This is not unique to Blizzard. It is a pattern visible across live service games that reach dominance without serious challenges. The larger and more established a game becomes, the more its problems shift from alarms to calendar entries. Players feel the difference even if they cannot articulate it. The game still receives updates, but those updates feel incremental instead of transformative. The game still changes, but rarely in ways that feel bold. The absence of urgency does not mean developers stop caring. It just means the system around them no longer rewards radical improvement at the same rate it rewards stability. Stability keeps revenue predictable. Stability keeps stakeholders calm. Stability minimizes risk. But stability is not the same thing as vitality. Vitality requires tension. Vitality requires the looming possibility of replacement. Overwatch for years existed without that looming possibility. It existed in a bubble where the question was never, will people leave, but rather, how long will they stay? That subtle shift in framing sets the stage for everything that follows. Marvel Rivals does not need to surpass Overwatch to matter. It does not need to become the new king of hero shooters. It does not need to siphon millions of players overnight. All it needs to do is demonstrate viability. Viability is more dangerous than domination. Viability says people are willing to try something else elsewhere. Viability says attention is movable. Viability says your audience is no longer captive. From an industry perspective, this is the moment where a market begins to shift from a monopoly-like comfort to competitive instability. And competitive instability is where behavior changes fastest. From the outside, Marvel Rivals immediately projected viability, recognizable IP, distinct silhouettes, fast, readable combat, spectacle-driven trailers, strong streaming performance, heavy social media circulation, meme presence, fan art, discourse, controversy, excitement. None of these guarantee longevity, but they together signal cultural penetration. The game felt present in a way that Overwatch had not consistently felt in years. Presence matters. Presence creates the perception of momentum. Momentum creates the perception of danger. And perception of danger is often more important than actual numbers in the early stages. Once a competitor begins to look viable, internal conversations change. Not publicly, not ceremoniously, quietly. Instead of asking what's safe, they start asking what's fast. Instead of asking what's stable, they start asking what's actually impressive. This is not because executives suddenly love players more, it's because retention math changes when churn has a visible destination. Marvel Rivals didn't force Blizzard to begin to care, Blizzard already cared in its own way. Marvel Rivals just forced Blizzard to prioritize. There is a massive difference between the two. Live service games are graveyards of good ideas that never received resources. Competition does not invent solutions. It reallocates budgets towards existing solutions and IPs. From an outsider perspective, the timing of Overwatch's recent surge in bolder changes aligns too cleanly with Marvel Rivals' rise to be dismissed as coincidence. This does not mean Blizzard copied Marvel, it just means Blizzard was reminded that Overwatch exists inside of a market, not above it. Tone is one of the most revealing signals a live service game can send. Not marketing, not trailer, not developmental tone. You can feel when a game is in maintenance mode. You can feel when a game is in experimentation mode. You can feel when a game is in survival mode. Overwatch's recent event changes carry the energy of a game attempting to reassert relevance rather than merely preserve functionality. They feel less like housekeeping and more like genuine courtship. From the outside, the changes do not read as minimal compliance. They read as deliberate attempts to reshape perception, faster balance passes, willingness to revisit controversial mechanics, and other such things that they mentioned in the Overwatch event. These are not behaviors of a game that believes its core structure is untouchable. They are behaviors of a game testing elasticity. Elasticity matters because rigid systems snap under competition while flexible systems merely bend. There is also a noticeable shift in communication posture. This does not mean Blizzard has suddenly become a paragon of openness. It means the risk calculation of honesty has changed because there is a genuine competitor that they have to face. When you believe players are leaving anyway, honesty has also become safer. When you believe players have alternatives, sincerity becomes strategic. Most telling of all is the underlying emotional register. The game feels like it is asking to be reconsidered, not demanding loyalty, not assuring attachment. Asking. That is a profound shift. Games that assume loyalty design for dependency, games that ask for loyalty design for desire. Marvel Rivals represents desire elsewhere. Overwatch's recent changes feel like an attempt to become desirable yet again. Marvel Rivals did not need to fix Overwatch's long list of problems. It does not need to rebalance heroes. It does not need redesign progression. It did not repair trust. It did not restore lost goodwill. Those are Blizzard's responsibilities alone. But Marvel Rivals did something arguably much more important than any individual patch. It reintroduced uncertainty into Overwatch's future. When a company becomes uncertain about its permanence, because uncertainty is fuel, it begins to act. Not always correctly, not always wisely, but actively. From an outsider's perspective, Overwatch's recent surge in meaningful change looks less like a creative renaissance and more like a survival response. And survival responses, while imperfect, tend to produce movement. Movement then creates opportunity. This does not guarantee a renaissance. As many games receive competitive wake-up calls and still fail to capitalize, pressure does not automatically create good decisions. It only creates the number of decisions made. Blizzard could misinterpret signals. They could chase trends. They could overcorrect. They could burn goodwill faster than they rebuild it. All of those outcomes still remain possible. But the most important shift has already happened. Overwatch no longer feels less like a game coasting on just legacy alone. It feels like a game aware that its legacy is no longer sufficient. That awareness did not emerge from internal reflection. It emerged from external threat. Marvel Rivals may have never become your main game. It may fade, it may flourish, its long-term fate is secondary. Its immediate impact is already visible. It made Overwatch move, and in the live service genre, movement is survival. Stagnation is death. If Overwatch finds its footing again, Marvel Rivals will deserve partial credit, not as a conqueror, but as a genuine rival.